Hello, everybody. I'm Michael Monaco.
And I'm Bobby Salveson, and we are the Hazmat Guys, bringing you the knowledge and insight to make your job a little bit easier.
Before we get into the show, let's thank today's sponsors.
HazSim training systems have been in use across North America since 2011. Hazmat teams, firefighters, confined space specialists, and industrial safety trainers alike have found the value in the HazSim Pro system. HazSim brings real information-based decision-making to students from instructors safely and realistically. No more burning up sensors or pretending a 3x5 card is a meter in training. Visit hazsim.com for realistic training solutions.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to episode 91. We are finishing up our wonderful world of cylinders. We've learned so much good information that we've already forgotten about. So strap in if you are saying to yourself, what other cylinders episode? That means you came in number 3 and you've skipped 2 other prior informational podcasts. So go back and look them up.
You should be ashamed of yourself.
You should be. But it happens. Listen, I get it. Sometimes, episodes get skipped. You don't have to listen to them. You just got to download them. Remember, that's our motto.
Right.
So what else we got?
I'm going to put out there that with this new website, we have an awful lot of traffic coming and going. People are enjoying it. However, me and Mike only we're only 2 guys. We have some behind-the-scenes people. However, we are looking for original content bloggers. So if you're interested in writing original content, and I'm not talking about even if we have a news article, we want the analysis for the article.
Yeah.
We want how-tos. We want
the hindsight 2020.
Critiques and my worst scenario, or hey, this is where I made a mistake. We want that kind of stuff. So if you're interested in doing that, send us an email at info@thehazmatguys.com, and we'll put you in the hopper. And it's a possibility that you could have the illustrious position of writing for the Hazmat Guys.
Ooh. So we need people to go to our site and blog off.
That's so bad. You're killing me today. This is horrible. Oh my God! All right.
Well, let's jump back into cylinders and pick up where we left off. Getting back into the cylinder world, we're going to start to talk about the regulators. So we're coming off of the cylinder a little bit, and we're going to the next stage, which is the regulators, high pressure regulators. Most of the regulators are gas specific. Or, all right, maybe not gas specific, but they're at least CGA valve specific.
Okay, so the regulators are going to be CGA specific for high pressure, low pressure, but basically in a classification.
Right, because if you think about how the CGA system works, they take gases with similar characteristics. Right, and they say, okay, this valve is associated with this chemical physical property of this gas.
You may not have one CGA for one gas. So I can't say CGA 340 is made for acetylene. But CGA 340 might be good for acetylene and ethylene oxide and blah, 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 because they all have similar characteristics and similar chemical physical properties, that kind of thing.
Right, a lot of our inert gases are going to land within the same CGA number.
I am getting. Okay, so your standard regulator has pretty much 4 parts, right?
Right.
2 of them are gauges, and 2 of them are knobs.
Right. Now, the gauge closest to the cylinder, that's going to give you the pressure inside the tank.
Right. So that's going to be the first valving on-off, and your cylinder pressure.
Right.
Then it trickles down to now the regulated area. And this is where you're going to have what?
Well, the second gauge after that regulated area will be the working pressure.
Okay.
And then the knob between the 2 gauges, as you're looking at the gauge, that's going to allow for the amount of product going into the system, the pressure, once this product is flowing, it wants to be at.
Mm-hmm. Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about labels and markings. So markings and labels and markings.
Ooh.
All right. These are going to be stamped on the cylinder.
Yes.
Okay? So you will see them hard stamped in.
Literally, in fact, a trick to be able to see a cylinder that may be a little bit rusty or so dirty that you can't see is to take a piece of paper and a pencil and just scribble over it, and you should be able to kind of outline the numbers that are stamped into.
Yeah, that's a great way of doing it. Even if you can't see, like it's rusted, like you said, you can pick up numbers by doing that little pencil through the paper. Trick, whatever the hell. I don't know how you call it. I'm sure some art guy's going to write to us now, but
it's not a pen. It's a graphite sheet that. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Got it. All right. I could care less. So what are we going to see? We take our paper, we put it up there, we rub it against. There's 3 common things here in the United States that we're going to see. The first one is going to be associated with the oldest cylinders that are out there. And that's going to be something that's going to begin with ICC. And that stands for the Interstate Commerce Commission. These are really old cylinders, and they date back before the Department of Transportation was even created. All right, so the cylinder that is in front of you that's stamped ICC, remember all of the standards, how that cylinder was built is going to be built under the Interstate Commerce Commission standards.
Right, and now you might see it stamped nowadays with DOT, and this is the modern CFR that you read today, and it covers all cylinders in the United States today. Canada has theirs. What is theirs?
CTC.
Oh, okay.
That stands for the Canadian Transport Commission.
Okay.
They're so original. Everything with them is the Canadian something commission.
Yes.
Just, all right. It's their version of the DOT, and we don't see this a lot, but if you're up by the border, you may very well see somebody that comes across that has one of these cylinders. Is there one for Mexico?
There is, and I just talked about it in an Ask the Hazmat Guys episode, and I can't remember it off the top of my head.
All right, fair enough. So if you want to know what the Mexican one is, can I say Mexican? That sounds awfully harsh.
They're from Mexico.
Yeah, isn't it?
I think
so.
so.
I don't think you can say Asian.
Or from American.
No, I don't know what the standards are for political correctness nowadays.
That's all right.
But go to that Ask the Hazmat Guys, and you can hear all about the Mexican version.
All right, so the next set of codes that you're going to see stamped in there is going to be a code that indicates what the cylinder is made of. Why do I care about this? Why do I care about what the cylinder is made of? Because it's going to let you know about compatibilities, right? So you'll see something that's like 3AA or 4BW or 4A, or these things are telling you about the metallurgy and what else?
How that cylinder is going to react.
The reaction, right?
Yep. Because like everything else, the container was designed for the chemical, physical properties of the product that it was going to hold. And I think there's close to 100 different recipes to create a cylinder. So don't memorize it. You'd be stupid to memorize it.
We don't.
But I do
just
know where to
look.
find it. Right. And that is the Compressed Gas Handbook for my Dead Tree edition, and they'll help decipher what it means, or you can go and do the Google thing.
All right, so right next to the code for the metal is going to be the maximum allowing working pressure, which we discussed in the last episode. If you don't know what the hell we're talking about, go back to listen to that one and download.
Right.
In fact, download one for every person in your family.
Yeah, download it. Give them out as Christmas gifts, or Hanukkah gifts, or Rosh Hashanah gifts.
Whatever.
If they do gifts.
It's all good.
So the DOT, the metal type, the maximum allowable working pressure, also called the MAWP, they're hopefully all going to be on that same line.
Yeah, usually it's like a string. It's just like right across the whole top. And if you don't know that it is broken down into little things, it's like the VIN number on your car, right? So if you look at this code on your car, each one of those letters and numbers means something, like where it was built and what kind of engine it has in it, and if it has daytime running lights and all the other crap. But somewhere on there, it's going to tell you about the maximum working pressure, right?
Right.
Somewhere also on the line, you might see an H.
Yes.
So this means that the metal on the cylinder has been made to hold hydrogen.
Which sounds really strange.
All right.
But it's really not, because it's important. The reason that it is important is because if it's not stamped H and you have cracking in a cylinder, you could potentially have a problem. And what is that problem?
Well, hydrogen, first off, is pretty badass.
Yes.
I mean, it's the whitener of whiteners, right? It strips out everything. It's like bleaches everything. But when process of hydrogen being placed under pressure in the presence of carbon steel is called hydrogen embrittlement, right? So the actual hydrogen goes into the metal, causes it to become incredibly weak to the point where it literally becomes brittle and cracks.
Right. That's where our major issue comes from.
That's where the problem is.
Right. So if we're dealing with a tank that was not designed to have hydrogen in it and somebody's storing hydrogen in it, this is where the problem is. This is a really dangerous situation for the cylinder because you have high pressure, a very brittle metal system, and it's not a good thing. This is not a widespread problem within industry. I'll be very honest with you, all right? But you should keep this in the back of your mind when you come across a cylinder in a place where you wouldn't expect to find a cylinder. It is something that needs to be taken into account.
Right, and this is kind of, again, another rabbit hole of mine, but, hydrogen has another inherent problem is because it is the smallest element. It has a way of getting through that metal. And so anytime you have cracks or even the porosity of steel, what metal is impervious? No, it's not. Actually, on the subatomic level, there are holes, and hydrogen's so small, it slips through.
Yeah.
And it goes through the metal.
And that's actually how it becomes brittle. They don't exactly know what makes it brittle, but the theory is that the hydrogen gets between atoms and actually shears the bond between them, causing them to become literally brittle.
Right, change the
crumble.
metallurgy.
Right.
And so, you might, as a manufacturer, buy a 3,000-pound hydrogen cylinder. I don't even know if that's close. But you put it into the corner, and a year later, you come back, and it's 1,500 pounds because it all weeped out of the metal. So, whatever. Anyway, that totally meant nothing.
All right.
This is something you might see, hydrogen, in a home, because people are trying to generate and store hydrogen. Right?
Yes, absolutely.
The hippies,
yeah.
the hipsters.
People trying to live off the grid. It's doable, but you got to have the right cylinder for it.
Right.
All right, so let's get back to our stamped markings. The line under this main DOT, WMAP thing, all right, this is going to be the serial number of the cylinder. The starting number, the line under will be the serial number for that cylinder.
It's going to have abbreviations for the manufacturers. You might, you're going to see there's going to be some symbols there as well. Absolutely.
All right. Then as we go across this line, we're going to come across some dates. And these dates are going to start off with the manufacturer's inspection date. Mm-hmm. The next set of dates after that is going to be the hydrostatic test date.
Right. And most cylinders are done every 5 years. They can be as short as every 3 years, like the DOT 3HT. However, I think and I'm doing this off the top of my head, I think if there's a star, I think it adds 10%.
Yeah, the star actually allows you to go to 10 years.
10 years, and there's another symbol that'll allow you to go to longer hydrostatic, like it'll double it. And I don't remember what it is, and I should have looked it up, but that's okay.
Let's take a minute to hear our sponsor.
Rails by Spectral Labs is a computer-based training game for first responders, hazmat teams, law enforcement, anybody that uses CBR&E equipment. Pretty much anybody that listens to this podcast. You can practice in realistic and hazardous scenarios that are difficult to simulate in training exercises. Things like an underground gas leak or a highway chemical spill, or even locating and identifying a high-activity radiation source. The best part? It's free. It's free to federal, state, and local agencies. So just email or call Spectral Labs and let them know the name of your agency and the hazmat instruments you use, and they'll take care of the rest. The email is training@spectrallabs.com, or the phone number is 858-207-3727, and then press 1 for the Rails team.
All right, continuing down this road, let's talk about evaluations, right? We now have a cylinder that needs our tender love and care. We've been tasked to
love it
and remedy this terrible situation. So what are our questions during this evaluation?
Well, one of the first things that I look for when I walk into a room with cylinders, especially something that we've been called to, not just walking into a room with cylinders, but what was the mechanism of injury? Why is it today that we are being called?
Right. And was it because it's on fire?
If it was on fire, I think I'd take, without a doubt, the tick or the temp gun.
Why?
Well, because I want to see the heat that is involved in the cylinders. And if it is a cylinder that has like acetone in it, not acetone, acetylene in it, I want to be able to see if the acetylene is reacting inside that cylinder. So it gives me a really good idea of what the temperature is like now, and it can kind of give me an area to assess. If I see a really hot spot on a cylinder that was involved in a fire, then I can focus in on that area and look for other signs.
All right, let me give you a question. Let's see where we go with this one. If I have a cylinder that is not leaking, let's say it's a propane cylinder. Let's say it's a regular barbecue, so everybody in the crowd can understand what I'm talking about. We have a propane cylinder. It's not leaking. And you look at it in a thermal imaging camera, and it is hella cold, but it's not leaking, but it's half full. Does that tell me something?
Well, it tells me that there was possibly propane coming out of the pressure relief device at some point, because if it's cold, that means that there was auto refrigeration taking place. In order for auto refrigeration to be taking place, there had to be vaporization taking place. In order for that to happen, there had to be vapor coming out of somewhere. If it's not currently leaking, that means it was currently leaking, and the only way to do that is through the pressure relief device.
And it will continue to leak as soon as it starts warming up again. So yeah, see, that's why the temp or the tick or the non-contact thermal thermometer Inquisitor thing, yeah, that thing, the way you point it at it has the laser on it, and the dogs hate it. They go chasing the laser beam.
I have a dog with one eye, and he smacks into the wall all the time. The kids
tell him to make rights.
Love it. Oh, my kids are such assholes.
4 rights equal a left. Doesn't he know that?
With the temp guns, a little trick, guys. If you're in a department that doesn't have even a temp gun, do yourself a favor. For like at Harbor Freight, $20, you can go get yourself a temp gun. You do not have to buy the $4,000 temp gun that does flux and all that other crap. Just all we want is the temperature.
Yeah. Even any paint blisters on the cylinder, or even points that are weak in the metal. If I see a rusty tank, I have worry because, oh, well, there's no pitting, there's no deep pits. But what if it uniformly rusted?
Right.
And it shrunk, and I have no point of reference to see how much it shrunk.
Because in reality, we only know the metal that's rusted on the outside.
Right.
We don't know about the metal on the inside of the tank.
That's one of the reasons why we don't run our cylinders down to 0 pounds. Because what happens is when you run a cylinder down to 0, and then the cylinder gets cooler, it creates a vacuum in there. And now it drafts in humid air. Mm-hmm. And now the humidity starts corroding the tank from the inside. So whenever you run a cylinder down, and this is really not for the hazmat, but you always want to leave like 10 to 20% of the pressure inside the cylinder. That is quote unquote empty. Because you're saving that cylinder, especially if it's yours. If it's not yours, then who gives a shit? But
yeah, and but now we do the exact opposite for a propane cylinder, because we're going to throw it away, and our sanitation requires the valve to be removed. Mm-hmm. So we have to bring that down to temperature because we're removing the valve, but we are not worried about saving that cylinder. It is not something that we are looking to reuse.
Right.
One of the other things that we want to look at is the pressure relief device. All right. Depending on the pressure relief device, did it go off? Is it going off? Is it stuck because it's going off? There's a lot of little nuances with these things that we can look at.
I also want to look at the general integrity of this whole tank. I want to see if it has any scratches, dents, rust, or what they call insults, like gouges or scrapes. I want to see if there's welding issues, if the scrape or the insult goes across a weld line. Okay? And if you don't know what we're talking about, we're going to be probably coming up with a whole... It's very hard to do an insult. Well, we could do an insult show, but it wouldn't be very hazmatish. No, but what I'm saying is, like, a lot of these things need visual cues.
Right.
So maybe we'll come up with an e-course for that. That might be a good idea.
Yeah, we could definitely do something like that. One of the other things that we want to look at is going to be the manufacture date and the hydrostatic date. Now, cylinders can last for a long time. There's only a couple out there that have a 25-year life expectancy, but that is when you look up the metallurgy on your that DOT and then the metallurgy, it will tell you that cylinder is only good for 25 years. So, but for the most part, they can go almost indefinitely, up to I think 100-year mark. But it's the hydrostatic test date that we are really concerned about. Mm-hmm. Because if this cylinder is sitting there and it's way past its hydrostatic date, that tells me two things. One, I have no idea the structural integrity of this cylinder. And two, the person who owns that cylinder has not taken very good care of that cylinder. So I'm really going to be cautious around that cylinder because I don't know what kind of other conditions have been lapsed, like bringing the cylinder below 10% when it was empty. So it keys me in on how to behave around the cylinder.
All right. Another thing I want to look at is it leaking, right? So what to do is really going to depend on more of the contents than the cylinder, all right? So if I see a propane tank that was converted to an ammonia tank illegally for some nefarious acts, well, the fact of the cylinder is going to play in, but I'm really more concerned on the contents than the cylinder itself. Now, the contents itself could be attacking the cylinder, which is exactly how I kind of know about the ammonia conversion. But what do? I got to work on the contents, right?
Right. And once we know the contents, or we have an idea of the contents, we can take into effect where it's leaking. All right. So if it's leaking from where the valve actually screws into the tank, I'll be honest with you, there is nothing that we can do about a spot there.
Be very careful saying, oh, well, I'll just tighten it down. Okay. Don't do that.
Yeah.
That is every time that's the wrong idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
100%. There's so few absolutes in our world.
Yeah,
do not tighten down a valve. That's leaking, because that is leaking for a reason and you don't know why. It could be all rusted in there. And now think about this. You have a tank that could be, let's say it's a low pressure propane tank. It's leaking from the threads and you're like, oh, I'm going to go screw the valve down tighter. And it's all rusted out and you tweak that just enough and now those threads give way.
And
that valve will go right through your head like you weren't even there.
Yeah.
You will just be a faceless puddle to bury in the ground.
And then we'll just laugh at you.
I will laugh.
Right. But I mean, like, even so, like, you don't know what's going on. Why is this thing leaking? Is it because of the rust? Is it because of the overpressurization? What you have to do is think more about the why. Take the step back and figure out why, and do not do that. If you've ever, to give you the perfect example, if you've ever tried to unscrew the high pressure coupling on your SCBA while it was pressurized, that's what we're talking about. You're not going to be able to do it in the first place, so people think, let me get a bigger wrench. And they try to wrench this thing down. The amount of pressure it's going to take to move this thing a tiny hair under that pressure is going to be more than that metal is rated for. So do not do it, okay? So, yeah. Anyway, from the valve, we get into the threading area, right? So can we cap it? Or can we plug it? So if I have something coming from, like, let's say inside the valving, and I look right down the port of where I would screw on my hose, and I see a little bubbling from my soapy water that I spray onto this thing, and I go, well, if I cap this thing and I put a cap on, can I stop this leak? And that might be a viable idea. If we are talking about this is coming out because of overpressurization, fire impingement, a reaction inside the cylinder, maybe illegal conversion, is this the best idea for us? So it might be better just to let it come out.
Right. So really, we cap it or plug it when we want to keep the product in that cylinder. If it's something nefarious, we don't necessarily want to do that. If we do want to try to keep the cylinder and we are just there for, for a normal non-nefarious act, one of the things that we can try doing is opening the valve and then closing the valve.
Wait a second. You're going to let out more gas in order to fix?
I am. And I'm okay with that.
That's brilliant.
I'm okay with that. Because
it's so crazy it might work.
Most likely, the reason that valve isn't working is because some little bit of debris or dirt or crap has gotten jammed in there and it's not allowing the valve to close all the way. So if I quickly open this and then quickly close it, it almost blows out the valve, hopefully dislodging whatever is in there, preventing it from closing. And I'm telling you, 9 out of 10 times, that bad boy will shut right back down.
Yeah, we had a rubber gasket in a 200-pound propane cylinder. And the guy got a delivery. And it's a one-way kind of valve, so it doesn't let it out, but it lets it go in. So the pressure of the propane going into the cylinder overrides the spring and it pushes it down a little bit. So when the guy took the fill line off, the thing came up and seated on like a single grain of sand, and it was just leaking a little bit. Nobody really noticed it. So all we did was we took a screwdriver, put it in there, and gave it a snap from the top, and it dropped the valve down for a split second, and it seated. Problem done. That was it.
Easy as pie.
Yeah. So I mean, even like a lot of times is that the packing nut, around the packing nut. If you don't know what the packing nut is, when you have the valve handle and it goes into the stem and that goes through the valve, but there'll be a nut that keeps it on the top. And that packing nut is what they call it. If it's loose, it allows leakage. Now this thing has to be snug, not tight. Because if it's tight, you can't operate the valve. And you'll see, if you start screwing around packing nuts, you'll tighten it down hard and you can't open or close the valve. So you'll loosen it up. It doesn't have to be tight. It just has to be leak-proof. That's pretty much it.
Yep. All right, so we've assessed this. We've looked at it. It's leaking. We can't seem to get it to stop leaking. We've used a couple different methods. One of the methods to try to contain this product is going to be something called a cylinder coffin. All right, and what a cylinder coffin is basically it's a giant cylinder that you put the cylinder in, for really lack of a better word.
Yeah.
And
to die.
It is designed specifically to hold a leaking cylinder.
Right. And so there are things you can't put in there.
Yes.
Right. There are some gases that you cannot get in there. We're going to get into that in a little bit. But one of the options is once you put it in this cylinder, you have a couple of things now. Now you can evacuate it in a controlled manner.
Right. Because there's valving and stuff actually on this specifically designed to offload the product.
Right. It's not designed just to hold something, because what the hell good would that be? Because now once the coffin fills up with X amount of pressure, you have no way to let it out except for opening the door. And like I said, if you have a door that is, let's say, 12 inches circular, and you're putting 5,000 pounds per square inch against that door, you're talking about hundreds and hundreds and hundred pounds of pressure against that door. You can't hold it. The bolts can't hold it.
Right.
So we have to have a way to bleed it out. And we usually will do it in some type of way, like we'll scrub it or flare it or whatever we're going to do.
Right. Especially if you have a really crazy gas that can be reused.
They'll reclaim it.
They'll reclaim it. They'll come in, they'll connect to it, they'll pump it back out, they'll evacuate that, they'll actually purge it with nitrogen, and then bring it to standard temperature and pressure, and then reopen it, and you've got an empty cylinder sitting in there. So
right.
it is really, really good. There's a couple different types of coffins out there you need to be aware of. Just like a cylinder, its metal is designed for the chemical physical properties of that, what it's going in. You need to be aware of what is going in that container. So they have stainless steel coffins, they have carbon steel coffins. They've got a couple different types that are out there.
Yeah, there are some things that cannot go into these cylinder coffins.
Like what?
Well, the one that comes to the top of my head is acetylene.
Why can't I put acetylene in a coffin?
There's got to be a joke here somewhere.
No.
I'm thinking of one. I'm trying to think of one.
Setting you up for the reason why we can't put acetylene in.
I was trying to think of a good dad joke for that one, but I couldn't think of one quick enough. Because it's so unstable, right? So if I have this gas come out of my cylinder and into a new cylinder, there's no packing in there. It's specifically put into this cylinder, so it's dissolved in acetone, in packing, and now I have that come out of cylinder into this larger area, coffin, and now it's not at home inside of a baffle, saturated inside, or diluted inside of acetone, and now it's very, very angry at that.
And you said it was explosive at 15 psi.
15.
You will well exceed that putting an acetylene tank inside a coffin cooler. You will literally create a mobile bomb.
Right. So
that can detonate at any moment.
That's how they get around acetylene cylinder has 200 pounds of pressure in it. But Bob just said it's 15 pounds in an explosive. Because it's in that diatomaceous earth, because it's dissolved in acetone, it can stay at a higher pressure. But once you take it out, you're making it unstable. So that's one of those no-nos. And there are more, and to be honest with you, off the top of my head, I don't remember what the hell they are, but that kind of ilk where it has some type of special provision in the cylinder or the valving or the regulation, those are no-nos.
Yep.
So we don't put them in there.
All right, so New York City has a couple of these, and they are very, very rare. Most municipalities will not have coffin coolers sitting off to the side, to wait for you to get a cylinder run that you can't control. So what is more likely than not is that the industry that you're in is going to have a a cylinder coffin set up for their emergency. And if you can identify where these are, more likely than not, if there's an issue, you're going to be able to call them and kind of borrow it for a little while. So know where your Reese's are. Know where your, I'm thinking Reese's peanut butter cups because I'm fat and hungry. So know where your resources are. Start reaching out and seeing, all right, listen, if I had a leaking cylinder tomorrow and I can't stop it, how can I go ahead and get somebody there to close it up?
And one of the last things that we're going to talk about, and there's a specific example in this one, is that think outside the box. And I hate the term think outside the box. It's so like overly used cliche, but we had a compressed natural gas.
Very large cylinder.
Right? We had a compressed natural gas that was on top of a New York City bus. And these things were, a picture in your mind's eye.
A torpedo.
A torpedo. It was an SCBA cylinder, but 8 feet long.
Yeah.
And probably about 20 inches in diameter. And at where the valving was a rather large manifold, and it had like 5 ports. But the problem was it was leaking between where the manifold screwed into the cylinder. So there was like an O-ring there that was bulging, and it was releasing this, and it was a lot of pressure.
Like so much pressure that we didn't even know where the leak was coming from for the first 20 minutes of the operation.
Yeah, we were working on the manifold like it was coming from one of the ports.
Right. And we were spraying, it was coming out with so much pressure that we would spray the water and it would get blown away before it even touched anything. So we couldn't even get bubbles on it to determine where the leak was coming from.
And this was in a guy's front yard.
Yep. Yeah, just laying
We're
there.
not even letting you know how or why. This guy had a cylinder that was filled and in his front yard that was leaking. We'll come back to that later. But anyway, we had to think outside the box. There was nothing that we could do to not only grip the cylinder, but to mitigate a high pressure. So we had to start coming up with really wacky stuff.
We brought out the level A kit, the chlorine
A kit, right?
And
with
what
the
was the reason we
chains,
couldn't use that?
Because the chains weren't long enough.
They weren't long enough.
And that would have worked, because if I would have put that bonnet on top and used extremely long chains, I could have been able to put the ring on the bottom, on its side, of course. I'm not going to stand up an 8-foot long cigar and wrench this thing down. I bet you that would have worked. However, the chains weren't long enough, so we had to go to plan B.
Right. And we were actually thinking about going to the store and buying more chains. That's how big this tank was and how long it was going to leak. So we decided to, okay, let's see unconventionally what we have on the rig that could try to stop this leak, because we were like, we need something. So Bob ended up finding, what was it? It was a pipe squeeze tool, right?
It's a pipe clamping tool that is used. It kind of fits on a poly pipe, and you can kind of wrench down. It's like a pipe press. And I brought it up, and Mike was on entry with another guy, Eric, and I brought up, I said, put this on it and squeeze it down, and like put a glove in between. And they're like,
and we did.
That'll never work.
We did.
They tried it.
Right, because we thought it was coming from...
They were placating me.
We thought it was coming from one of the holes in the manifold. So we tried it on all the holes in the manifold and nothing worked.
Right.
Which is when we discovered that the leak was actually coming from the threads where the manifold or the valve connected to the tank. What had happened was this guy dropped the tank, it hit the manifold, caused a little bit of deflection, and the O-ring in there actually bulged out of the between the valve and the tank. So we tried this pipe squeeze tool on all the things. Then we discovered that this little O-ring was popping out, and now we take a step back and go, all right, now we know where it's leaking from. Let's try to figure out how the hell to fix this.
So the four of us have a huddle, and we're looking at each other. All right, so we're going to get this, and we're going to try that, and we're going to try this, and then all of a sudden you hear, stop.
Silent.
And we just turn around, and the other entry guy stayed there to put it on, try it again, and he squeezed it on that bulge, and he stopped it, and he just turned around with a big smile and gives us a thumbs up. We're like, you're a jerk. Like, we thought that wasn't going to work, but that's really what it comes down to, is thinking like that tool is not, listen, I know you use the right tool for the right job, but sometimes there is no right tool for this job.
Right.
And you have to make something work.
And this is where everybody, we talk often that everybody can play a role. We had the entire company brainstorming on how to fix this. And through somebody having an idea and bringing up a tool, and then somebody else taking that tool and applying it differently than how it was originally designed to work, we were able to get the leak to stop. So it's so important that when somebody has an idea on your team, when you're trying to figure something out, you let every idea come forward, because you never know where one idea that didn't work for one thing is going to now work for the other.
So that's I think that wraps up about cylinders.
I think that does.
Well, that wraps up another episode of the Hazmat Guys.
You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and our YouTube channel at The Hazmat Guys. And take a moment to call our comment hotline at 843-628-1484.
We are always looking forward to your feedback about information or interesting incidents that you were part of. So send us a note at feedback@thehazmatguys.com.
And remember, guys, don't just get on the job, get into the job.